Hello, and welcome to a special edition of the official 4th Age Total War Dominion of Men Let's Play, taking a short break from our Rohan campaign to look at one of the special features of the Elven faction. Now, the Elves and the Dwarves in the Dominion of Men, because it's set in the 4th Age, we're talking pretty clearly states that the Elves and the Dwarves are on their final way out of the world. Put us in a little bit of a difficult situation when we were trying to decide what to do with the factions for the mod. On the one hand, lore-wise, having them there and playable and expanding didn't really seem to be, very appropriate. But on the other hand, having even some sort of presence there without them being playable for the players or having them non-existent at all, removes two sort of really cool fan favorites for this sort of model game, and we really wanted to include something. So we tried to find a balance between following the lore as closely as we could, and putting something in there that people would really enjoy looking at and playing as, and occasionally fighting against. So with the Elven faction, one of the unique features they have is the ability to rebuild Ost-in-edhil. If you're familiar with the lore of Middle-earth, the appendices of the Lord of the Rings, you'll know the significance of the settlement. What we've decided is that in the 4th Age they have the ability to sort of rebuild this, not as an elven settlement, because there just aren't enough left, particularly Noldor, but as a managed settlement under elven control, sort of symbolizing a new order, a new way of doing things. They still have some sort of influence in the world, but now it's through men that they rule over, rather than their own full civilization. Now, the way to rebuild Ost-in-edhil is quite complicated and tricky, and it's intentionally not explained exactly what you need to do, because we wanted it to be some sort of difficult and slightly rare event. We have set it up so that there is a good chance that during an average Elven campaign, you will have the ability to rebuild it. But you have to be watching out for it. You have to be aware of what's required. There's a few hints in the description here, but what I'm going to do in this video is just go through some save games of my last Elven campaign, where I did successfully rebuild it, and show you what's required and how to do it. So the first thing you need to do is have the right sort of character. You need to have an elf of the right background, the right attitude, and the right ability, who could undertake the sort of task to rebuild the civilization in this wilderness. This save game is on the turn where I received one such character, who is here, Styrian of Forlindon. Now what we're looking for, firstly, is their subrace. They have to be either Cinder or Noldor. You cannot use that one's Cinder as well. Pop over here. You cannot use Nando or Galadriel, Galadriel's peoples. You can't use any of those subraces to start rebuilding the city. It has to be a Cinder. The second thing that you want to be looking for is if they are both intelligent and charismatic. That's actually not that uncommon for the elves. They tend to have very good stats across the board. They tend to be energetic, intelligent, and charismatic, just by nature of who they are. So it's pretty common that you will see most of your potential candidates fulfilling those requirements. So far, actually, all of my family members over in this part of the world fulfill all of the requirements. They're Cinder, that they're or Noldor, and that they be intelligent and charismatic. The next characteristic is the tricky one. What you're looking for is a trait which shows that they have the vision and the foresight to see the new way of things, the dominion of men, the future, and adapt to it. And that's represented by, there's actually 2 or 3 different traits. A true seer and foresight are 2 of them. This character has the true seer trait, which is actually the less powerful one, gives fewer bonuses, but it's sufficient to trigger the system that will start rebuilding the mod. So this character fulfills all of my requirements. They are a visionary, they are charismatic, they are intelligent, and they are of the right race. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I will grab my next save game, which is midway through the process of rebuilding. So I took this character, I ran him all the way across the map, and I put him in Ost-in-edhil as a governor. If you've been watching the Rohan series, you'll understand what it means to assign a character to a settlement as a governor. They get the ancillary, the title, they get the trait, they get a tuned governor, and they are then considered by the mod to be governing that settlement. They get a whole bunch of bonuses. So I've moved Isterion over to Ost-in-edhil, and he is now governing that settlement. If we scroll down to the bottom, we'll see that he's received a new trait called Rebuilder of Ost-in-edhil. Only a character who fulfills the requirements of being a true seer, intelligent, charismatic, etc., etc., will receive this trait. Other characters you put in here will not. What this trait does, aside from give you some interesting descriptions of this process, and you can see it here, is massively increase your population growth. Without this trait, you get the same population growth in Ost-in-edhil that you get in a fort or a minor province, which is 5% at 400, which means a maximum of 1500 population after a very, very long time. But with this character in here and low taxes, we're getting 12.5% population growth, and we're already at 2000 population. So the population in Ost-in-edhil is starting to grow, and that means that the development process is underway. And you have to leave him in there, and he has to stay there long enough for the population to reach a certain threshold to finally rebuild the settlement. So you put him in there, you grab a few mercenary units and militia units, and you also disband them in this region to bump the process along. And then after quite a few turns of doing that, the population will hit the threshold required to upgrade the ruined minor province into a full, brand new, elven-controlled human city. Okay, ignore this, this is not relevant. On this turn, we have reached the population threshold. I think it's might be 14,000, might be 12,000. In any case, it's quite a large population. But you see our population growth is still very high because we still have this trait. Once you've reached the threshold, this building will become available, the Lord's Tower. It's an upgrade to this building here, the ruins of Ost-in-edhil, which we looked at earlier. And if you look at the other settlements, that's a Lord Palace because it's Dunedanik. Look at the other elven settlements. They also have as their base government building the Lord's Tower. All of these ones, all of the normal ones. So once you see that building pop up, you have done it. You've successfully completed rebuilding Ost-in-edhil. You still have to pay gold cost, but you can see it only takes 1 season to develop. We don't quite have the cash this turn, so when I was playing through this originally, I did it next turn. And I achieved what you'll see in this next save game. Okay, you can see that our model on the map has changed. It's no longer the ruins. It now looks like a normal elven settlement, although it does not have walls. And you can see now that I've started building the pacification building. This has become a normal province. just like any other province in the mod. So now that it has been rebuilt, not only us, but other factions, if they were to conquer it, could also build and develop it as a normal human province. For the elves, it is considered as a... what is it considered as? It's been a while since I've done this. Let me just check. It's considered as a fiefdom for the elves. Not technically a homeland because it's not elvish, but a fiefdom is the highest level of elven control managed settlements. So you get all of your human units, the full roster, including the elite ones, out of Ost-in-edhil. And there's also a couple of unique buildings in there that give you some pretty powerful upgrades as well. The other thing you can get out of Ost-in-edhil, aside from some decent trade possibilities, and a couple of unique buildings and upgrades, is that it builds a bit faster than your average settlement. It's considered that if you've gone through the whole process, so you've found the character, you've moved them there, you've developed the population, you've converted the province, you've earned a bit of a special reward. And you'll be able to, once you've done that whole quite time-consuming process, you'll be able to develop this province and use its very high population to recruit units a lot faster than any of your other fiefdom settlements. So it's quite a good reward if you can redevelop it. There is actually one final hurdle to rebuilding Ost-in-edhil, but it's not a particularly difficult one, and that's that you have to not be at war with the dwarves, and the dwarves still have to be in control of Moria. This is pretty easy to achieve, and it will happen in most of your games without even trying, but you should be aware of it. If you want to rebuild Ost-in-edhil, don't go to war with the dwarves. So, that is how you rebuild Ost-in-edhil. The most difficult part is finding the character. Once you have that, and you put him in the settlement, everything else happens in a pretty straightforward fashion. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, if you like the mod, please share, like, and subscribe. It really helps us to promote the mod to new players. And feel free to leave feedback in the comments below or at our forums at twcenter.net. Thank you for watching.